Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk Now. Once again, I'd like to wish you guys a very happy new year. Welcome to 2023. And basically, Quant's own Gilbert Verdian, the CEO, has released a 2022 year in review. So let's go ahead and get right into that. Let me go ahead and full screen this because otherwise it just kind of makes it a little bit too hard to see. And the emphasis should be on it and not my face. So, as you can see here, this was put out on December 21st, but it's from the head honcho himself, Gilbert Verdian. And while there's a lot of good useful information in here, I'm not going to read everything verbatim. It says, they basically had a strong year in 2022, establishing many foundational activities, helping our customers realize their ambitions for digital assets and, of course, tokenization. Gilbert shares his top 8 accomplishments for the year. Now, I went further down, and one thing I like to see basically was where it states a focus on growth. And I think it is just that. You think about where have they been in the past and all the partnerships they made, for one. But look at this. It says they expanded their team by 74%, adding key roles in product, engineering, HR, and marketing. In so doing, they put a focus on strengthening their culture, aligning with their core values, and hiring a diverse multinational team, right? They even have like different offices in different cities and so on. We live in a day and age where that may not necessarily be a need to have physical offices and so on because we live in a virtual environment, right? But look at this. It says there's been, for instance, frequent communication. I would totally agree with that. Trust and transparency definitely helped to keep the team working in the same direction. Now, in regards to Quant's operating system, Overledger, right? It says their low-code API gateway for blockchains. This year, well, let's face it, it's not last year, they went ahead and issued 22 new releases of Overledger roughly every 2 weeks with new functionality, including, as you can see right here. And before we get to that, let's point out something, right? So, when you see something like 22 new releases, that's really, really impressive. Now, I may not be the biggest fan of, for instance, Microsoft and so on. I use a Windows operating system. I use technically Windows 10 because I'm a big fan of jumping into new operating systems until everything is worked out, all the kinks and bugs and so on. But even with that said, there's still bugs on this. But you can draw a parallel, if you will, to how active they are with their updates and how active, for instance, Microsoft was, with their updates. So, there is a pretty impressive parallel, if you will, when it comes to how active Quant is with these particular updates. Super, super impressive. Secure smart contracts, right? So that's what Quant really, really stands out in, is specifically secure smart contracts. Let's face it, there's lots of different blockchains out there that basically, has smart contracts. And, don't get me wrong, some of them really make sense. I'm personally invested into ADA. Yeah, it doesn't set the world on fire on the short term, but I believe in them in the long term. And technically speaking, they're going to become ISO 222 compliant at some point, right? But what stands out, of course, for ADA is quality smart contracts. A big example of that is what? SingularityNet, right? Really, really impressive AI. If anything, that's probably one of the standout ones from ADA. Now, while this is a Quant video, think about this, secure smart contracts. So I will read this part verbatim. It says customers can now quickly and easily create, enterprise-grade, highly secure smart contracts using templates. Customers can choose preset attributes and functionalities for the type of smart contract desired. Users can then use a REST JSON API to conduct various payment operations through what? Quant's over Ledger's API. Yeah, on their operating system's API. How cool is that? Now, previously, we did talk about QRC20 tokens, and I basically explained, of course, referencing Quant, the misinformation that's basically been out there in regards to ERC20 tokens getting hit with big gas fees, because if anything, in the future, you don't want to get slapped with a big gas fee, right? That, some people who aren't aware of Quant, they look at the contract and they see an ERC20 token, and they say, "Oh my gosh, why would they choose Ethereum? You're going to get hit with a big gas fee when you go to sell, and this thing goes to the moon." Well, that misinformation was squashed, I should say. Check out the video. I go into full detail about it. So it says the ability to issue and mint new QRC20 interoperable digital assets and tokens that are built for institutional use cases such as commercial stablecoins. That was a key moment for Quant. Oh, by the way, if you want to learn more about QRC20 tokens, I, of course, put out that one video I was referring to, but how about this, right? If you haven't seen it yet and you're new to our channel, you owe yourself a favor to look into the particular video, and in the thumbnail it says UNT LCX Leo X. Why? Leo X was the first QRC20 token to be available anywhere, and guess where it's available? On LCX. How cool is that? Definitely want to check out that particular video. It goes into detail about Leo X. Highly recommend that. But going down further, blockchain-based payments. Now, this is where I'm going to put a real emphasis on this, okay? So it says, released our Overledger endpoints to perform blockchain-based payments and account management functions as a foundation to power CBDCs and stablecoins. Now, if you guys have remembered, within the last few weeks, I've been putting a lot of emphasis on the Quant videos when it comes to CBDCs. Why? Because, if anything, you see a strong amount of what supply and demand for specifically CBDCs. Whether people believe that they're the devil or not, I'm not trying to get into that. What I'm trying to have people recognize is if there's so much supply and demand for these, how many governments that involves, right? Not just the UK, many different ones, right? The Quant connection. We established that, right? So if you haven't seen some of those, check them out as well. But I'm going to take a moment to put some emphasis a little bit more on this. So it says blockchain-based payments. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to go to this particular, the comments here. And every once in a while, there's some really good objective comments, like a good debate, if you will. So this particular person here, and there's nothing wrong with people posting this and so on. It's fine. But this is from C2 Javu, if I'm pronouncing it right. Posted this 18 hours ago. He says, or she says, I don't know. I doubt any banks will use Quant for any payment purposes. All right, just bear a bit with me. It says if you have used gas fees are not cheaper, right? Where we talked about the whole thing with ERC20 and QNT20, right? So the point is, this person needs to just simply look more into that. And I understand a lot of people, they don't know all this stuff, and that's all right. We're all learning. This is not me, of course, showing any disrespect for this particular person. But he states, or she states, it's all about cheaper and faster payment. Quant will have some kind of use cases, but not as payment formats. Now, Owen Graham, if you're watching this video, shout out to you. You've been really, really killing it with the comments. This is one of the best comments I've seen. I love seeing passionate Quant watchers, subscribers, what do you want to call it. You guys know your stuff. Here's a perfect example of a guy who knows his research when it comes to Quant. Shout out to you, Owen Graham, if you're watching this. He states, Quant connects legacy bank infrastructure to any blockchain or DLT. Can you imagine how costly and time-consuming it would be to convert all assets to the blockchain? Yeah, exactly. Banks can plug and play and pay fees based on whatever layer 1 DLT they choose. Quant makes it possible for banks to use more than blockchain and or not have to create ones themselves. And oh, by the way, talking about layer ones, Quant also enables layer 2s, layer 0s as well. How do we know that? You see, for instance, Polygon. Polygon's a layer 0. Quant makes it possible for banks to use more than blockchain and or not have to create one themselves. To use Quant's overledger, their operating system, they choose payment options / gas fees based on their preference of DLT or blockchain, so on and so forth, right? This is called MDApps. And of course, in the previous video, we briefly covered this, or multi-chain distributed applications. Overledger also has secure APIs for complete security. Very true. And they can pay Quant for a license in fiat. He's absolutely right. That subscription is then conveyed to Quant, or QNT I should say, by Quant's treasury. Overledger is an operating system. You better believe it. It allows banks or enterprises to plug and play. Oh, and Grant, you hit it out of the park, my friend. The guy who, definitely has done his research and so on. I thought that was a great comment. I love seeing people in our community who know their stuff when it comes to this. It's very, very cool because it shows, for instance, Owen, other people have a firm understanding of how this works. All right. So let's go back, of course, because, this is a look back at 2022. So I want to point that out because, I've seen other people basically mention this whole emphasis on, payments and so on. Payments is such a small portion and so on and so forth. I can understand that debate. There's another person that basically came at me with some of this, and it's okay. We could agree to disagree. I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form when it comes to some of the predictions I make and so on. It's just how I personally feel. Could I be wrong on a lot of things? You better believe I could be. I could also be probably closer on some of these predictions than, let's face it, a lot of people out there as well. Now, regards to the user interface, right? The UI, launch beta version of a new tokenization API with a new user interface to easily view and deploy tokens. You want something to be easily deployed and so on, right? And we basically already saw that with what? For instance, Leo X. It says new support of distributed ledger networks. Of course, you have some of these here. I already mentioned, for instance, Polkadot. But by the way, there's Polygon, right? There's Go Yearly Testnet, proof of stake, because as we know, Ethereum did go from proof of work to proof of stake. And of course, XDC and Hyperledger Fabric. How cool is that? We cover XDC here. Be on the lookout, of course, for an XDC update, because I definitely want to keep up with that as well, especially if you were into XDC. But there's some of these other ones, right? Scaling our engineer team and processes, which, don't get me wrong, it's nice to see these particular things and so on. Blockchain for Beginners course with King's College of London. All right, it's good to have beginner courses and so on. There should always be crypto education as far as I'm concerned. There's so much emphasis when it comes to regulation. There's not enough emphasis when it comes to education. And that's another aspect that we love to provide, especially on our live show. We do a lot of education. And some people, of course, tell me, hey, Max, you do provide a lot of education in regards to the recorded videos. I would hope so. I am actually an educator myself. I'm a teacher. All right, so it says deepen our relationship with LAC chain. This is a particular area that I want to put a little focus on. So we've done videos when it comes to the whole thing of LAC chain, and it's very, very significant, right? Latin America, for instance, you have 12 countries that are part of this. And so it says, and by the way, it's the Caribbean too. So it says designed to promote financial inclusion and sustainability and create new efficiencies through digitalization. I realize a lot of people can go through this and so on, but these are some key areas. That whole thing with LAC chain was huge for Quant. How do we know it's huge for Quant? Because if anything, think about this. They basically were able to accomplish, for instance, this demand, if you will, by introducing a form of a CBDC, right, with the likes of LAC chain when nobody else really had this going on or fully implemented yet, to a sense. And I think, if anything, it showed that Quant was able to get some of these things done before everybody else. And how do we know that? Well, they do it at scale that nobody else has been able to do. For instance, it was said that, typically speaking, with a regular blockchain, what they accomplished would have took, for instance, about 3 to 4 years. And they did it in a matter of months, right? So it says there are exciting use cases for interbank cross-border clearing and settlement. In particular, we've developed a proof of concept use case for people purchasing gift card tokens and fiat currency redeemable as credit with specific merchants on the LAC chain network. This offers similar functionality to a traditional cross-border payment without friction, interbanking delays, and network cost. It's something else, right? So, I said basically CBDC. Well, I should have said basic. Sorry. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I should have basically mentioned it was in regards to the cross-border payments for this specifically. All right. So it says revitalize our brand, marketing, and communications. They did do all that. They have advocated for best practices in CBDC development, balanced regulation, and the need for international technical standards for blockchain and, of course, protocol development. They stand out with that. Heck, banks have literally reached out to them instead of the other way around. And of course, we cover that as well. And then the last two, participating in top global forums for financial services. How do we know that? The Cybos event, right? That was huge, and then, for instance, you had Innovate Finance's FinTech Week in London, some of these other ones, and so on. Heck, even Gilbert is part of INATBA and the Digital Pound Foundation. And then last, a partnership with UST. I want to state this is not the one you're thinking of if you're new here. It's not a partnership with, Luna's, the former unstable stablecoin, right? It is not that. Totally different UST. But what's significant about that is when they partnered with UST, that was, like it says, a sizable digital technology company with 30,000 employees in 25 countries. And the specifics, it helped them basically accelerate work on digital assets and tokenization across financial services. Their partnership basically does facilitate, says it does facilitate the issuance of central bank digital currencies, digital money in the form of commercial stablecoins, and digital securities onto major distributed ledger networks. By working with just that, enterprises, banks, and capital markets participants will be able to shorten the life cycle of their blockchain projects to just a few weeks. Again, guys, another reason why I want to point some of this out is because that creates that much more supply and demand for Quant. Think about it. There's so much utility here. I think that's it behooves me, as Larry would say. It behooves me that people don't understand the full potential of where this can go, right? Why? Because it hasn't been fully implemented yet. We're still very, very early when it comes to Quant. And of course, like it mentions here, looking into the future, I will read this part verbatim. Gilbert Verdian deserves to have this read verbatim. It says, he is very thankful and very grateful to the team at Quant for all their support. Couldn't agree more. He states, we have built an incredible foundation to unlock a blockchain and realize the future of finance. Unlock a blockchain. Geez, that's an understatement. And realize the future of finance. They have realized it at full scale beyond measure. We have so much to look forward to the months ahead. We want to unleash additional solutions for developers. Yeah, they're still working. They're not done. They may be done as far as developing Overledger, but they're not done as far as all this other stuff they got going on. Right? So it says there's some exciting projects in the pipeline, as well as new capabilities planned, of course, for just that, Overledger. The market is ripe for easy-to-use, low-code, secure DLT solutions, and they are in a great place for continued growth. We'll keep you posted. Well, they'll keep us posted. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And again, if you want to see the whole thing for yourself for future reference, You can just go straight to the Quant site. I thought it was really, really, impressive. And yeah, there's Gilbert. Of course, there's that particular quote I just gave you. That was really well put together by him. And of course, it should be. I mean, he's the CEO of a company, for crying out loud. But basically, got to come back in frame for just a moment. And I want to state this. I liked some of those things that were highlighted in the year of reflection for Quant. I'm that much more excited for 2023 for Quant. Hopefully you guys are as well. And of course, with any news or developments we get, we're more than glad to bring it to you guys literally like daily. You guys know of any other, blue chip cryptos, if you will, that's killing it with the coverage when it comes to Quant? Really, really am glad to see people in the community come together, whether it's Quantoronto, Quant Papa, Ray Glunt, some other content creators who basically do a really good job of bringing their talents together, and then we put something together for you guys. Community-driven news is where it's at. I want to state that. Don't listen to the narrative so much. Listen to it as far as a reference. But let's face it, guys. When it comes to mainstream news, they always like to report on just the negative aspects. FTX, stay out of crypto, all this stuff. We are still in a crypto winter. Let's face it. And like I mentioned in the previous video, I feel as though it's going to be thawing out here sooner than people think. A lot of people are saying not going to happen until 2024, 2025. Hey, that's fine. We can agree to disagree on it. But for me personally, we have enough data to support that might not be the case. So be on the lookout for a particular video I'm going to do here soon. It's going to outline the case for a utility run going into a bull run. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks again for watching today's Quant coverage. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please hit that bell notification. You love the content, you want more. And speaking of just that, if you want more, join us at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We're one of the few channels out there that does a live show every single day. I'm not even kidding about that. We've done a show every single day of the week since April 18th. So, thanks again, everybody. Happy New Year's Day to each and every one of you. And you all have a blessed day and a new year. We will see you in the next one.